Namaste and welcome back to Waking Up with Mindful Serenity Yoga. And today I would just want to continue with these 5 remembrances. Last video we talked about the first of the 5 remembrances, which was I am of the nature to grow old, I cannot escape aging, and now today I want to talk about the second of the remembrances. I am of the nature to have ill health, I cannot escape illness. I am of the nature to have ill health. I cannot escape illness. Now, when we talk about ill health, we often think of the body, and we forget to think sometimes about mental illness, which is actually can very much be a biological condition of the brain, which is a part of the body. And we can think of it beyond the brain to the mind, and the way most of us are mentally ill in the way we approach lives today. Why do I say most of us are mentally ill in the way we approach life today? Because of our tendency towards resisting what is. Our tendency towards trying to escape from these 5 realities that the Buddha talked about and taught from one of his sutras. The 5 remembrances all came about when Buddha, as Siddhartha, was the son of a warrior king, I believe, or emperor, whatever the type of leadership was back then in northern India. And he was, when he was born, visited by an ascetic from the Himalayan mountains who predicted that Buddha would follow all other yogis and become a rishi someday, go out into the forest, become what they call forest dwellers, and find true spirituality and wisdom through going inward. His father did not want that for him. His father wanted him to follow in his footsteps and become a warrior king as well. So he thought one way of doing that would be of preventing Buddha from being exposed to the realities of life, the realities of suffering that occur in this world, so that he possibly didn't develop the compassion that the aesthetics predicted he would develop later on in life. So the king kept him away pretty well, not imprisoned him, but made his world very small. He prevented him from going out into the general population where there was no way of hiding illness, death, aging, separation and loss. And he made whatever was in Buddha's environment free of any exposure to aging people. They were pushed out of the castle or hid away. Illness, ill people were pushed out of the castle or hid away. Death, as soon as someone died, they were hidden away before Buddha had a chance to see them in a dead body form. And loss was something that was definitely hidden away as well. Any sense of loss or separation that the Buddha might expose, he was protected from. As far as the 5th remembrance about actions being our only true belongings, his father more or less controlled Siddhartha's actions, so that he did not have that sense of true belonging that came with action. So these things were done in an attempt to protect Buddha from dukkha, which is suffering. And I think once Buddha did venture out, and of course it's almost impossible to escape seeing these things, they're so prevalent in our world, right? So when Buddha Siddhartha eventually expanded his horizons and went out and he saw a dead body for the first time, and he saw illness and aging for the first time, and he saw the consequences of loss and pain and separation for the first time, he began to take ownership of his actions and realized that he had to do something, that he couldn't live like this. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why he took off and went into the forest and became a rishi then, because, of course, back then it was all yoga before it became Buddhism. And he went off and he began to contemplate these very strong, real truths that he had been hidden from most of his life, and with great compassion and understanding and wisdom. So when we talk about the second of these remembrances, I am of the nature to have ill health, I cannot escape illness. Buddha himself could not escape illness. I think he ingested something poison during a dinner festival for one of his one of his greatest followers, who was a businessman, and he accidentally ate a poisonous mushroom, I think it was, or something. Anyway, he ended up dying within 24 to 48 hours after ingesting that. So yeah, he was of the nature to grow ill and to have ill health, and he could not escape sickness, right? And the sickness eventually killed us. Now, all sickness is not going to kill us, right? All sickness is just going to incapacitate us and debilitate us for a certain extent of time. We, as a society, especially at this age, tend to resist the idea of getting sick. We try to cover our eyes over it and do what Siddhartha's father did for him so he wouldn't expose it. We try to hide from it. We push, in this culture anyway, we tend to push the elderly away. We push the sick away. They're in hospitals or whatnot. And we say, these are healthy, these are sick. We make that distinction between, and we come up with these judgments that wellness and, healthy, fit bodies are good. Sick or broken down bodies are weak and not good. Right? So we make that distinction, and sometimes there's even shame in this very productive orientated society to become ill when you can no longer keep up with the rest of the production members of your society. So we tend to resist illness. We tend to avoid this reality or this remembrance as much as we can. Mentally, we do whatever we can to stay well, to keep the body well, to keep it at least looking well, so we can fool ourselves into believing we are well, to fool others into believing we are well. We do whatever we can to fight diseases. How many different ribbon colors are there out there to measure this or to symbolize the fighting of disease? So many different types of diseases and so many different types of fights against disease. We struggle against disease. We resist it. We resist this reality that the body, these trillions of cells that work together to keep us going, will eventually, at some point, not be working very well. They will not work well together. Some may even begin to mutate on their own and cause cancer, which is one of the most fearful words in our society today. We fear the word cancer. It almost causes a gut reaction in most of us, a visceral reaction when we even think about it. We fear the thought that someday we may get it. We fear when someone we love might get it. And when someone we know does get it, it hits home so intensely. We say, oh my gosh, they got cancer. And it's just like, we resist that reality that the body is of the nature to get sick. We don't want to face that reality. And why do we not want to face the reality, especially diseases like cancer? Because we see it bringing us closer to the third remembrance, which is that we are all of the nature to die. We don't want to know that, face the fact that death is eventual for all of us as well, inevitable. And sometimes cancer will bring us close to death. And so we're so fear-based in our thinking about cancer, we don't realize how much gains have been made against, in the name of cancer, and have stopped it, and how much advances we've made as far as people living longer with cancer. It's still a very terrifying word, because it makes us remember that second remembrance, that we are of the nature to get sick, and it brings us closer to the third remembrance. So though not all diseases are life-threatening, the thought of being sick, incapacitated, not keeping up with the masses is terrifying for most of us. So we resist it. And the more we resist, what happens? What we resist persists, right? So we're creating more disease. Because a lot of our diseases are psychosomatic in the sense that the mind controls them. It is our fear that causes, I believe, many diseases. I believe it causes some cancers. I believe it causes definitely GI disturbances, because our second brain is our intestinal system, right? So stress in the form of resistance, or resistance in the form of stress, can cause so many types of diseases that can actually be not only debilitating but life-threatening. Our autoimmune diseases, our immune diseases. When we're stressed, our immune system is put on hold, so we are more likely to catch things because of a weakened immune system. And of course, with our fear-based living, we tend to not take care of this body very well, right? As collectively, as a culture. We think of what we do to the body to reduce the pain and increase pleasure in our experience. It's a wonder that not all of us are sick. You know what I mean? We smoke, we inhale in things that are toxic to the lungs. We ingest substances that are toxic to the liver, like alcohol. We live very sedentary lives because, we just sit for too long in our productive mind modes rather than getting up and moving around the body as the body is so inclined to do. So we end up with diseases related to sedentary lifestyles. We overeat and overconsume because of our fear-based thinking as well. Is there not enough? And I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to numb. Overindulging in substances, like in unhealthy substances, like some of the foods we eat are very unhealthy for the body. We don't drink enough water. We're 60-70% water. Not only do we not drink enough water, we are participants in the destruction of our water sources by our behaviors and our activities, and this idea we have as fear-based beings that we have to do whatever we can and take whatever we can from this world as ours to manipulate and do what we want with, and we end up destroying our variable water sources, destroying the planet on which we live that offers us everything, because not only as humans are we responsible for our own health, but we're interbeings too. So we're responsible for the well-being of other beings, and other beings that we're destroying have a positive effect on our health. So it's like, we're just kind of making a mess of things with our resistance, our fear-based resistance, when it comes to this second remembrance of, I am of the nature to have ill health. I cannot escape sickness. What would happen, I wonder, if we removed the resistance from that remembrance and said, I accept that I am of the nature to have ill health. I accept that I am, that I cannot escape sickness. What would happen to our physical well-being as these separate little entities? What would happen to us collectively? What would happen to us spiritually at a higher and deeper level if we recognize that we were not just the bodies we were in, which we are so over-identified with, but we are the engines or the controls that are manipulating these bodies and this planet, this nature that we are a part of, not masters of. I wonder what would happen then to our sense of well-being and to our physical health. I imagine it'd be with a lot less resistance in the world, there'd be a lot less disease, because the mind, though it cannot control everything, does have some control of our body functionings. And we look at the wonderful science done in epigenetics showing that we once thought that disease was was a result of our chromosomal makeups, right? If my father had a certain disease, I was 50% likely to get it. In certain diseases that are hereditary, genetically based. But now we're seeing that no, genetics only play a small part. If my belief system is in wellness and a deeper sense of wellness, not just superficial wellness, then maybe I can actually impact the health of the body. Regardless, the body is of the nature to get sick. And the brain, we have to realize, is a part of this body. And the brain malfunctions, and sometimes there is a problem with uptake of certain neurotransmitters like serotonin or dopamine, which impact, our ability to be happy. So depression can be a biological consequence of this thing. So a lot of the mental illnesses we have are biological and it belong to the body. But there are many other mental health issues that belong to the mind, which I believe is outside the body. And that is related to the way we approach our lives, the way we fear what life may give to us, and therefore spend all our energy resisting it and fighting against it rather than accepting life exactly as it is. What if we were to look at illness instead of thinking we judge it as a very bad thing, right, in this society, especially it's bad, wrong, shouldn't be, when illness is all kinds of natural consequences to it that are positive in the big realm of things, right? When you think about evolution and the changes that occur, that have to occur so species can evolve and adapt to new environments. So illness is a very important part of nature, We don't understand it. But when it happens to us, it's automatic, or someone we love or someone we know, it's automatically bad, wrong, shouldn't be, and we go, I don't want that. When in reality, it may be serving a purpose we do not understand. And I think if we could have just accept illness like that, for example, instead of freaking out when we get these diagnoses of some type of cancer, we could just say, wow, this is my human experience right now. I have cancer. Wow, what does that mean? Knowing that we are not the bodies we are in. So when the bodies get sick, and if the bodies expire prematurely, we don't. Just the body does. But we get to watch the whole process as part of our human experience. What if that were to happen? That would be a totally different game changer, wouldn't it? There'd be so much less pain in the world and so much less fear if we could learn to accept the reality that this body is just that, a bunch of cells. I am not the body, but I'm using the body as a tool to get me around on this planet so I can experience life. But life isn't just about health, a state of 100% fitness. It's also about those times when you get sick with a virus and you can't get out of bed, right? It's not just about being able to run a marathon. It's about being able to cope with a debilitating or chronic disease, There's so many different facets that we don't experience when we say illness is wrong, bad, shouldn't be, and going to avoid it at all costs. When we learn to accept these realities, see them as real, people get sick. Yeah, they do. People have physical pain. Yeah, they do. People's bodies break down. Yeah, they do. People's bodies die. Yeah, they do. I get sick. I have a couple chronic illnesses myself. And one time in my life I would say, oh my gosh, I don't want these. I can't believe I have these. I would complain about them. Now it's like, so what? I got a ticker issue. So what? I have osteoporosis. So what? I have diverticulosis. So what? I have an ovarian cyst that causes so much pain. So what? I am not these conditions, and I am not this body, whether it's in pain, or whether it's free of pain, or whether it's sick, or whether it's healthy. I am so much more than this body. That doesn't mean that we are not supposed to take care of this body, because we are. This is an amazing miracle we're in. Like, the body to me is the most, I taught pathophysiology and anatomy for years, and I was like, it's just so amazing. Like, it's a miracle. Every time I think about it, I just freak out. My students used to think I was crazy because I get so excited about teaching anatomy and what the body can do. It is just an amazing tool we get to use. But that doesn't mean it's going to keep up with everything we're doing with it. So we need to be careful about what we put in it, how we use it. Do we exercise it enough? Do we give it enough of the fluid that it needs because it is 60 to 70% water and we have a tendency to hydrate very fast in these environments? Do we give it healthy food? Do we give it the right amount of sleep? Do we, seek help for it when it starts to break down without being over dependent on those systems or whatever, but we still need them? Do we avoid the things that are dangerous for it? And most of all, do we love it? Like, do we think of it? Oh my God, look, I can lift my arms. I can grab for that cup. I can run. Maybe it's not as fast as I used to, but I can run. I had the opportunity this week to pick up my grandchild and play with him, and he's an active 3-year-old. But I was able to keep up with them for most parts. Man, when he left, I was so tired, I said I'd sleep for a month, but still, I had that opportunity. I could do it. This body allowed me to do it, even with the so-called diseases or illnesses it has. I can still maintain wellness in this body, despite what is going on with it. And yes, someone might tell me next week that I have cancer. Yeah, that's the reality of my life. But I have a funny feeling now that if I were ever to get that diagnosis, it'd be more like, oh, wow, that's interesting, than I would be fear-based. It's amazing. And when it comes to our mental health, we have also to take responsibility for that. What nutriments are you putting in your mind? Are you filling with violent shows and violent talks? Are you listening to Donald Trump every day on the news? Are you being consumed about that political system? Are you, are you giving your mind what it needs, which is peace? Are you giving it enough stillness, enough quiet time? Are you prioritizing peace over success and productivity? What are you doing with your mind? What are you putting in it? Those two. And what thoughts are you allowing to go on in your mind? Alright, you can replace your thoughts. We can't change everything. If you have a mental illness and you have non-stop thinking, as Thich Nhat Hanh would call it, it's very hard to stop that thinking. You're not going to stop the thinking in the mind. But you can replace some of those thoughts. You can reconstruct some of those thoughts so they're more life-enhancing rather than life-diminishing. We all have that power. So we do have power over our physical and mental health, and epigenetics has shown that, right? With core beliefs. Read Bruce Lipton, for example, who taught medical school for years, and he shows through his examples how the mind controls the body in a lot of ways, and we don't have to succumb to illness. Though we can't avoid it, because the nature of all of us is to get ill. It's part of being human. All phenomenon in this life, right, comes and goes. It changes constantly. Our cells are constantly dividing. I'm not in the same body I was in when I was 16. It's completely different because of a process of mitosis. It just changes. That's life, this physical life, and the body is the physical part of this thing I call me. But there's something watching this body move and watching the mind work with this body as I process here, and that will not change. And it's through that I know, and that I'm perfectly okay with the fact that I am of the nature to have ill health. I cannot escape sickness. Anyway, I hope that was a good answer. I'm not sure. Good, bad, wrong, should be, right. Whatever. It is what I gave you. Make of it what you want to. Thank you so much for joining me. And stay as well as you can. Namaste.